So today I'm doing a review for The Shining by Stephen King. Before we get too deep into this video though, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Squarespace, which is an all-in-one website building platform. If you're trying to do marketing, if you're trying to build a business, if you're trying to have a blog, a book blog, if you're a narrator or a photographer, they have a lot of content for you. Super easy to use, amazing customer service. We'll talk more in a minute. So this review is going to look really different from my reviews normally do. I usually do 3 pros, 3 cons, spoiler free, so that you can decide if it's the right book for you. I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to chat about it a little bit. I'm still going to give pros and cons, but I'm not going to worry about my normal structure. The Shining by Stephen King, this is his 3rd published novel, and a lot of people's favorite. Unfortunately, I did not feel that way. I believe this is my 3rd Stephen King novel that I've completed. My first go at Stephen King was under his pen name Richard Bachman, I think, where he wrote The Longest Walk. I DNF'd that. It was really bad. But then I picked up Pet Sematary, which is one of my favorite books that I've read this year. It was phenomenal. I still talk about it all the time. Then I picked up Misery, which was also great. I gave that one 4 stars. I did a dedicated review for it. I'll link it in the corner as well as in the description. And now we're trying The Shining. And unfortunately, I did not love this one. I wasn't sure what I should do about this. I went to Instagram and asked you guys if you still wanted a review, even though I don't have great thoughts toward this book. And the majority of you said yes, so here we are, and it's just going to be like a chat, still doing pros and cons, but a lot more chill. So I'll start off by saying I don't really remember a ton from the movie. I watched this movie in middle school, so there's not a lot I remember, just some key points, but those key points are things that happen in the book. I do remember how the movie ends, and I will say that the way the book ends is completely different and better from what I can remember. But as a whole, I'm going to go ahead and have the unpopular opinion among book nerds and say that I liked the movie better from what I remember of it, which isn't a lot, but I didn't care for this book. I'm choosing not to do a disclaimer because y'all are smart enough and mature enough to be able to discuss a book with differing opinions. So here we go. My review of this book that I gave 2 stars. So Stephen King, I don't have a lot of experience with him yet, but I am delving into his works and I loved Pet Sematary and really enjoyed Misery, so I think that he's an author that I could end up enjoying a lot. But from what little that I've read, I have already noticed that Stephen King is an extremely character-focused writer, and he also is a writer that really has slow beginnings. He likes to build his characters and lay a foundation and set a scene before he even attempts to begin a plot. And that sort of story structure can be hit or miss for me. So far, I have loved it in the 2 King novels that I've finished. So the 2 King books that I've read were wonderful, and I loved his character work. I don't mind that he takes a long time to start his novels, and I don't mind that the plot isn't a huge factor in his stories, because I love his character work and because his books are always intentional and exploring something much deeper. Pet Sematary explored grief, Misery explored drug addiction. I'm gonna go ahead and assume The Shining explored alcoholism and abuse and how alcoholism transforms your character. I didn't do any research on that, so it's very possible that he intended something different, but that seemed to be a pretty clear message with King. He, at least in the books that I've read, he clearly has an intention of exploring something deeper and uses horror as a tool to help him explore these deeper human emotions and experiences, as opposed to using horror for jump scares. And that's what I love about him so much, is that he is really great at the horror elements, but that he also explores something that really makes you think and see things a little bit differently. And he does his research, he works with professionals. He's awesome, or at least what I've read of him. The Shining, I liked his work with what he was... If his goal truly was to explore alcoholism, I liked what he did with it. He did a really good job. It starts out with a character who used to be an alcoholic, has been abusive with his young son in the past due to the alcoholism. And when his marriage was crumbling and about to end, he decided to quit drinking alcohol, completely reform his life, change all of his habits, and he's become a new man, and his family is intact again, but still has scars. He also has a son who has a special ability, and he's, I guess it's kind of a telekinesis slash ESP sort of ability that he has. He can read people's really loud thoughts. If you're thinking really hard about something, he can hear that, and then he can also see spirits, ghosts that are hanging out in this haunted hotel. I thought King did a great job at exploring this character's alcoholism, the consequences of it, and then, I guess this is a mild spoiler, but I don't really think it's that big of a deal, as he starts to tumble back into his old habits and ways, how devastating that is and how much it overtakes him. The plot is that the hotel overtakes him, the hotel ruins him, the hotel starts sort of possessing him and taking over who he is. But it happens when he starts drinking again, so again, alcoholism. I really like the way King handled the kids' special abilities. They were really in focus of this book, more so than what I remember it being in the movie, and I really, really liked it. I think with horror as well as thrillers and any kind of suspense, it's meant to be more of a domestic story, but if you add a supernatural element, a lot of times that's a miss for me, because if you're doing a domestic story and then you add a little bit of supernatural, but it's supposed to fit with the domestic, I kind of hate it a lot of times because I want one or the other. I love fantasy. I love in real life, contemporary. These types of books, I don't really like when they overlap in small ways. I think King does a really good job with it. He always adds it to the point and rationalizes it to the point that he could have me believing that this is actually part of our world. And it's always, not always, because I haven't read enough of his books to say always, but in every instance I've seen, it's subtle enough that it fits perfectly, and I think he did that really well in this book. The last thing that I really liked about this book is the ending. I kind of already mentioned this, but the ending is totally different from what I remember from the movie, and I liked it better. It was a lot bigger, it was a lot scarier, it was a lot more explosive. It was a really good ending, and I would say if you don't have a lot of interest in getting through this book, I have the mass market paperback and my copy is 650 pages long, so I don't know what it would be if you had a full-size paperback, but in my copy it's 650 pages, and it was a lot of downtime, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if you don't have any interest in reading the book as a whole, I would recommend at least going back and reading the ending, the last 50 to 100 pages, because the ending really was great. And now we're going to get into the pros, but before I get into the pros, a word from our sponsor. Come play with us forever at squarespace.com, where you can build your own website with pre-made templates, social sharing, and push emails for all that subscribe. If you're a narrator of horror stories, like I am, you can have audio blocks for samples or images for all your selfies. With incredible customer care like they have, you'd be a fool not to sign up. Link in the description. Go sign up now. Now let's go into the things that I didn't like about this book. So, like I said, in the past, King's character work is great, and I find it very easy to fall into step with his characters, and it doesn't matter that we're doing day-to-day life with them for a large portion of his novels, because it's easy for me to connect with them and to want to walk alongside them, even when the book is incredibly slow, and I just didn't have that experience with this book. I found Danny, the child's powers, really interesting. I found the mom's inner strength very cool and well done and motivating, and I found the dad's inner turmoil pretty interesting too, but as a whole, these characters didn't really interest me that much. And it's not even that they were one-dimensional, I guess it's just a preference thing. I just didn't really ever feel invested in them, as well as the day-to-day aspect of this book. This man who's trying to manage the hotel, as well as kind of ignore his son's abilities, as well as deal with his past demons, as well as research for his writing project. It was just a lot of downtime. There was so much downtime in this book. There was so many dull moments for me. And I feel like this book was in like 2 or 3 different reading vlogs because it took me quite a while to read it. And each time I felt like I was saying, it's starting to get good. It's starting to pick up. It's starting to get scary. And I kept saying that over and over again. And I realized at the end of the novel that the reason that was so repetitive, such a repetitive feeling for me, is because we would have such long stretches of what felt like nothing. And then finally something would happen that was scary, that was what I was looking for in this novel, that was actually really creepy. And I loved that scene, but it was so brief. And then we're back to so much downtime. I will say King's really good at being intentional with his novels from what I've read so far. So the downtime is always intentional and ties in well with the story, but because I wasn't connected to the characters very much, their downtime that was connecting to their past, that was connecting to their current demons, that was connecting to this and that, I didn't care about it. The scary parts were really well executed, and that was what I was looking for in this novel. I was really excited for a horror novel, and I got a pretty boring book with a couple of horror scenes until the very end. And that's the other thing that I thought was great, was the end was fully scary and exciting and suspenseful, and I really, really, really enjoyed the ending. But I'm tired of giving books 3 stars that I didn't enjoy reading until the last 50 pages, and then the ending was great. Because a 3-star book is the middle of the rating scale if you're working with a 5-star rating scale. So it's middle of the road, it's average, it's solid, it's good. I enjoyed reading it. I'm probably not going to talk about it again. A 2-star is just below average, it's disappointing. And a book that wasn't enjoyable to read the entire way through until the very end isn't average. That's disappointing, which is why I landed at 2 stars. I think I'm going to lean more towards doing a 2-star for books that gave me this overall feeling. I know that this is a lot of people's favorite King book. I know that a lot of people love this King book, but I just struggled to enjoy it. I still have a lot of King books that I plan on reading. I'm currently reading Mr. Mercedes. The Institute just came out, and I plan on reading that one really, really soon. There's a lot of King books that I'm still really excited about. I'm going to keep exploring his work. I just didn't really enjoy this one. To summarize, it was a ton of downtime with a couple of scary scenes with a really good end. And I didn't like it very much. I don't think it was a bad book. I think King's a good writer, but it wasn't an enjoyable read for me. Of course, reviews are always going to be personal and they're always going to be subjective, so feel free to chat with me about your experience with this book, if you loved it, if you didn't love it. I'd love to talk to you more about it. I post videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'll see you guys again soon. Bye.